Good morning, everybody. How is everyone here joining today? Um, Today is Wednesday. I was actually supposed to be here next week. Last week, but I, took some time for myself, some self care for myself that week, and so I didn't. I didn't do a wake up Wednesday, but I'm here today, fresh and ready to, share some really good content that I know each and every one of us can benefit from. So I am so happy to be here. Welcome, 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 everyone, and good morning. So if you are new to my page or if you're new to what it is, Wake Up Wednesdays is all about, let me just give you a glimpse. And for those that are here each and, every other Wednesday to tune in to Wake Up Wednesdays, welcome. So first I'll introduce myself. My name is Asia Nasir and I am the host of Wake Up Wednesdays. I am also the founder of a nonprofit organization called Jessica Cares, where our platform is to empower young girls and women to help them fulfill, their authentic selves in real time, showing up in real times and building up their sense of self-worth and their self-esteem. And so that's how Wake Up Wednesdays was birthed. Because I think sometimes, we just need those little jolts of reminders that really keep us going, those things that we innately already know within, but sometimes we just need to hear it from a different perspective, a different voice. And it's like, oh yeah, let me get myself in the game again. Let me get myself back on track. So that is how Wake Up Wednesdays was birth. Jessica Cares has been around since 2010. That's when we founded the organization. And so this is kind of like a spinoff, is what they call it now, of our empowerment platform for teen girls and women. So today I wanted to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. Because it's something that I struggled with for a long time. And I think even if you don't struggle with it, it's something that you constantly have to just kind of check yourself and be mindful of and focus on ensuring that you don't have a negative mindset. Negativity can cause havoc and create havoc in your life, taking away the joy of anything, all blessings, and even the things that you do have. You can't see it, you can't acknowledge it, you can't appreciate it, you can't expand on it because you have such a negative feeling about life and where you are and what's going on in your world. So today we're going to be exploring the power of mindset, how you can control that, and how you can shift the perspectives, especially if it's from a negative perspective, or if you are somewhat positive but you've been struggling lately, how you can shift that, how you can change that, and turn it into something positive for yourself moving forward, and how to deal with things when life just lifes, and does what it does. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And like I always do on Wake Up Wednesdays, is I just share, 5 strategies, 5 different ways in which, you and I can do this. So if you have any suggestions of how you can, shift the mindset and make sure that your mindset is on something positive, please put it in the chat. Please put it in the comments so that everyone can benefit, aside from the 5 that I'll be sharing right now. So let's get right into it. Let's get into the 5 strategies of, utilizing the power of the mindset and shifting, those negative perspectives. So the first thing I want to do before I even get into the 5 strategies is really talk about the power of making a decision. If you're in a space right now where you're not feeling good about life, you're not feeling good about you're not feeling good about, just what's happening in your world. I think the first thing that has to happen is you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision to not only acknowledge the fact that you're not happy in this situation, but that you are going to do something to change it. Nothing changes until something changes. And if it's affecting your world, and if it's affecting you being the best version of yourself, then the person that has to initiate that change is you. If you're not happy with something, you got to change it. So the first thing that has to happen is you got to make a decision. So let's go ahead and just make that commitment today to be able to say, I'm making a decision to change the negative perspectives that I have right now, the negative self-talk, whatever is happening in your world that you're not satisfied with, today it stops, right? Today's the beginning of the day that you're going to say, I'm going to change the trajectory of where this is going and where my life is going, in order to live the life that I want to. So now let's get into the 5 strategies to talk about how you're going to do that, how you're going to implement that, and really change your mindset to make a difference in your life personally, and how it impacts everyone else when you do. So the first strategy that I want to share with you today is practicing daily gratitude. I think one of the things that we do is we wait until something big happens. We get married, our children, graduate from high school, or our anniversary, a birth of a child. That's when we're like, I'm going to really give thanks and I'm going to be grateful for my life. And I think that takes away, and that's why sometimes we fall into these pitfalls of, negative self-talk, feeling like our life is just not what we want it to be. And that's because we're not practicing daily gratitude. Daily gratitude is where we really get to see the abundance of blessings that really exist in our world, that sometimes we just kind of take for granted because it's just there every single day. So for example, sometimes we don't think about the blessings that we have as far as like eyesight, being able to see, your loved ones, being able to see the beauty, when you're driving and we're like, oh my God, like fall is my favorite, season. Fall is because it has all of the beautiful colors, the autumn, the browns and the orange and the greens and the, all of this beautiful. So when you're driving and you see it, you're like, oh my God, this is beautiful. We don't even acknowledge the fact that we have the blessing of sight. We have the blessing of being able to walk. There are people that are on wheelchairs that, while they still live very fulfilling lives, they have to go about it just a little bit different, a little bit harder. They have to focus on other body parts in order to do what just comes naturally for us without even thinking. You know what I mean? Just those daily things. The fact that we woke up that morning to give it another chance to do it better than the day before, to be able to change our perspectives, to be able to be of encouragement to ourselves. So I think the fact that we don't practice daily gratitude has a huge part in why sometimes we fall into these spaces of negativity. So what I would like to encourage, those that are tuning in, is to write down, whether it's in the morning or whether it's in the evening. I personally have a gratitude book, and my gratitude book is where I write each and every night after the day, what is it that I was grateful for that day? And what is it that I'm just grateful for, period? So I'm grateful that I got to speak to my child today. There are some women, and some parents, I shouldn't just say women, fathers and mothers, that have lost a child. They have lost a child, which is, from what my understanding is, and I saw it happen with my parents when we lost my brother. It's one of the most devastating things that can happen to a parent. So being able to speak to my children that day, whichever child, I have 3. So I got to speak to my daughter today. I got to speak to one of my sons today. That is a blessing. Me being able to work today is a means of provision. Those are things that you can write about. The fact that your spouse came home, and you didn't get a phone call or a knock on the door that you have to go to the hospital or to the morgue or something like that. Those are things that you can be grateful for each and every day. You have a roof over your head. So many, I mean, the list can go on if we really think about it, right? So I particularly write it during the day, but you can write it in the morning. Jot down at least, at minimum, 3 things that you can be grateful for. So look, I just named like 4 or 5 things, and I said I can go on. So imagine if you really thought about your day, thought about what's in store for you for the day. So whether you write it in the morning or whether you write it at night, write down at least 3 things that you are grateful for, that that it is truly a blessing, because there are others that have less, right? So that is one strategy to change and shift the perspective of, it's not all bad. Yeah, you might be going through something, things might be happening in your life, but you have to balance that thought with, it's not all bad. And here is the evidence, here's the proof of, so many things that I have to be grateful for. So it keeps you from depression. It keeps you from thinking that, why am I here? What is life, for? all of those things. It diminishes or eradicates it altogether because you have the proper balance and perspective of the situation. So that's strategy number one. Strategy number two is reframing from negative thoughts. Now that's it's easier said than done, especially if growing up, your childhood is filled with either a parent who was pessimistic, or growing up in a very negative environment or a toxic environment. That can be very, very challenging, because that's the only narrative that you're used to hearing, is looking for what's wrong, looking for what's bad. Or if you were told on a regular basis that you're bad about this, you're not good enough, you're not whatever it was, that can be extremely challenging. So I empathize with you, and that was one of the reasons why I struggled, was because I was told for most of my life that I was something other than positive, right? So it can be extremely challenging, but you can overcome it, and you can shift that, you can change that. So what I mean by reframing negative thoughts, I want you to challenge yourself to actually look at the situation. Like, sometimes we think, oh, I don't have any friends. Okay. And I'm talking to my teen girls right now. Oh, I don't have any friends. I want you to challenge yourself to ask yourself, is that statement really true? Oh, my friends don't really care about me. Is that statement really true? But when you look at the situation, is it that your friend, is this during a time where it's studying, a lot of studying, midterms, SATs, things are going on that is really making that friend just unavailable to me right now, versus thinking, I don't have any friends, my friend doesn't care about me, right? Looking at it even from a woman's perspective, from an adult perspective, if you're married, and I'm just giving examples, my husband doesn't pay attention to me or whatever. Is it that he's working really hard because we're working towards a goal? We're trying to buy a house. We're trying to, do something, and he's working extra hours in order to make that happen. You have to look at the situation, or even talk to the person and share, and see if that statement is really true. Because a lot of times we kind of embellish, or we kind of generalize. It's all the time, every time, and I'm guilty of that, and I've curbed that so much. And it helps to be able to see from a balanced perspective, that it's not what you actually are saying in your head. The other way to reframe that is, if you're having negative thoughts like you hate your job, right? We hear that all the time. Oh my God, I hate my job. I hate this. I hate this about my job. I don't this. I don't, all of the things that could go wrong or is wrong with your employment. I would challenge you to change that and say, I'm thankful that I have a job. That while it might not be my ideal job, might not be my dream job, this job does allow me, through God's permission, to be able to take care of my children, to be able to put a roof over my head, to be able to have food on the table. Because the alternative is, if I didn't have this job, what would my life look like right now? How much worse? So as much as I don't like this job, how much would my life look like, the alternative of it, if I didn't have this job? What would my life look like? You know what I mean? Would I have an eviction notice? Would I have to sit up here and have to ask people for money to be able to put food on the table and things like that? It's like, what is the alternative? And if the alternative is worse than, having that job that you're not so happy about, that you don't like as much, there's a way to reframe that thought and say, you know what, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, and then it gives you the positivity, because when your mind is thinking from a positive perspective, you can say, look, while this is not my dream job, I'm going to make this work for me. It's a means to an end. And while I'm at this job, I'm going to learn the skills that I need to do. I'm going to be the best employee that I can be, so that way I can look for other employment. I'm going to put out resumes and everything. So when they call for references, I get a good reference from this job, although this is not the job that I want to be at. And I can enjoy getting up in the morning versus feeling sick and feeling like I don't want to be here, and you're calling out and all of those things, which makes it more difficult for you then to go and look for another job, because you're not going to get a good reference from your current job. So that's one way of reframing. Or you're like single moms, single mothers, or single parents, right? Sometimes we think, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed with these children. I can't take it anymore, or whatever. Think about the parents that are trying to have a child and they can't. Trying for years and years and looking at their pregnancy test and they're not pregnant. Being pregnant and losing another child and another child and another child. The devastating news that this child didn't make it, right? Um, Dreading going to the bathroom because you've had experiences of miscarriages. I mean, there's so that the alternative, like I mentioned before, it's like children are a blessing. And with each stage of their life, there's pros and cons. So look for the pros and where they are versus the parents that would die to have, cut off their right arm to have that child back, the child that may have passed away. Parents right now who are struggling with their parents, with their children being sick with cancer or other some type of debilitating disease, that's stripping them from the joy that child brings. Look at your child and be like, you know what, my child is healthy. They're just rambunctious. They're just being a kid. They are at the stage that they're supposed to be, and I just need to practice more patience, right? So reframing from negative thoughts and looking at the positivity. So instead of looking at just the cons of a situation, look at the pros of the situation and reframe that thought and say, but you know what? Yeah, while today is not that great, here is the you know what? Here's the pro to that. Here's the positive to that. Okay. So it's something that you consciously have to make a decision to say, I'm going to start doing. So number 3, this is something that I am actually going to start doing. I'm really going to start doing this, and it's called engaging in mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation. I have a very dear friend. Her name is Shri. She currently does no longer live in the country, so don't get to see her as often. Our time differences are crazy. However, she does this on a regular basis, and you can see it on her face. You see it in how she responds to things. But mindful meditation is 10 minutes. It could be in the morning, it could be in the day, it could be both, right? Mindful meditation where you're just dedicating time to really be clear within your thoughts. No distractions, no one else's thoughts, no one else's critics, yours, seeing what's going on in your mind. Because when you get to hear your own voice, clarity becomes something that it's almost like it's birthed in that moment, the clarity of a situation. Because you're being totally honest. You can't escape it. You're in that space of mindful meditation. You're thinking about whatever it is that you're thinking about. It's a beautiful way that if you start your day, that's also a moment where you can set your intentions for the day. What is it? How am I going to show up today? In this negative situation, how am I going to respond today? How is my breathing? And that's, when you're meditating, you're taking deep breaths, right? Breathing has such a way of calming the soul. You'd be amazed. And that's why a lot of times they breathe, take deep breaths. Why? Because it brings clarity, oxygen to the brain. It allows your mind to think clearer and more calm. And when you're meditating in that moment, you're thinking about how you want to set your day, how you want to start your day, how you're going to respond to this, how you're going to, show up in this situation, even if it's a negative. It allows you to show up positively in that space, that you're in. So meditating is a beautiful way. And even before you go to bed, maybe that's how you set the day, is how am I going to show up tomorrow? If, God willing, I'm able to wake up to see another day. What is my intention for the day? Right? So breathing, focus on your breathing. How am I breathing? Even when you're thinking about it. I remember when I was in therapy, my therapist used to sit up here and tell me, how does your body, how are you responding to that? What's your breathing looking like right now? Notice how your body's responding to this. And at the time, I really didn't understand, like, what does she mean by this? But you'd be amazed that brings on clarity, where this is, you can feel how your body's responding. And now, as I mentioned before, you can make a decision to say, this is not how I want to respond to this situation. Because in most cases, we're reacting. We're reacting to a negative situation, and it doesn't bring us anything positive. So being able to, have the mindset, in control of our mindset, to say, in this negative situation, this is how I choose to respond. And when you meditate, it becomes it's like programming. It's like when you go into a computer and you program a computer, the computer, no matter how you try to make it do something else, it's not going to do it, because you've programmed that computer to only do it one way. That's how you program the mind. You program the mind that anything outside of that is like, reject, can't do it. It stops it, right? And if you keep doing that on a regular basis, daily mindful meditation, your brain just starts to function in a way that anything outside of that just won't do, right? So positive reinforcement, meditation, how you want to show up, how you want to respond to situations, and how you want to move forward is where your mind now programs it that it can't deviate from it. And that is the beauty of the mind. So number 4 is setting small goals. Setting small goals. I've talked about this in another Wake Up Wednesday, but for a different thing. But it's really important here. A lot of times we focus on the big goal that we have. And so sometimes it takes, months or years to get to that big goal. And so in the interim of that, we're not reinforcing the great work that we're doing. So in the interim of those big goals, set small goals, even if it's for the day, to say, I'm gonna go and get a gratitude book, and I'm gonna start doing that, or I'm gonna start my meditation, today. It's early in the morning, I'm gonna start doing that today. These are things that you can do, and then celebrate those small wins. Today I'm going to go home and I'm going to cook my children's favorite foods, or I'm going to work with my child and help them with their homework. I'm going to show up more and be more present with my children, not just be there physically, but be present, listening, maybe starting a new tradition within your family where we're going to sit at the dinner table and we're going to be able to eat together. Maybe that's something that you want to do, but set those small goals, right? Daily goals that you can celebrate. So when you're doing it, you're like, you know what? I'm accomplishing a lot of the positive things that I want to do. I'm checking off those bucket lists that is going to give my family tradition, is going to give my children, the childhood that I want them to have, just from the small things, not just the big things, right? And then you celebrate those wins, so it diminishes the depressive state, the negative thoughts of, I'm not accomplishing anything, I'm not where I want to be right now. It takes away those thoughts because you're able to celebrate the small wins as you go. So number 5, and this is a big one. I can't stress it enough. This is huge. And this is where it's your surroundings, being very selective of what you allow your body to take in. That saying, you are what you eat. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to the mindset. You are what you pour into your mind. So if you surround yourself with companions or friendships that are negative, they're constantly backbiting and gossiping about people, slandering people, having this negative perspective about life, guess what? You're going to have that as well. It's going to reinforce that type of thinking. So if you're trying to change it, and if you've made a decision to say, I'm no longer going to live that way, I'm going to shift my mindset, then who you surround yourself with is going to be extremely important to reinforcing this new decision to say, I am going to live a positive life, not just externally because of what I have, but the inner peace that comes with being a positive person. So who you surround yourself with may need to change. And this is very difficult because sometimes these are lifelong friends that we've had for years, but are they serving you well? Are they complementing the life that you want to have? Are they going to be in support of you having this new perspective on life and wanting to live a more positive life? And if the answer is no, you got to make a hard decision. Not to say that you just got to cut them off, but you may want to start distancing yourself and not being around them as often. And after a while, when they start seeing your new way of living, eventually what ends up happening is people that are negative just eventually drop off. They drop off from you. Wa alaikum salam, Becky. Right? The third thing is what you, as I mentioned before, what you put into yourself, what you feed yourself. And so that even comes with books. Like, I read a lot of positive books. I love reading. Reading is like such a It helps me to have different perspectives. Like, wow, that's something I didn't think of. I didn't think of it that way. I didn't look at it that way. I wouldn't have approached it that way. So it broadens my horizons to see things outside of my world and my experiences. So what you put into your mind is also important with the content that you read. What books are you reading? Are you reading? And then the other is, what are you watching? What kind of TV shows are you watching? If you have TV shows, like, I choose not to watch shows like Basketball Wives and stuff. And this is not a dig. It's just, it doesn't work for me, because you see the cattiness and the tearing each other down. I'm not with that. I'm not about that life. I don't roll that way. So I choose not to watch shows like that. Why? Because eventually when you start watching that type of negativity, it becomes normal. It becomes very normal to see that type of behavior amongst women. So guess what you're going to do around your companions? The same thing. I want that shock value. When I see things that's negative, I want to be shocked by it. So that way I know that, you know what, this totally goes against the core. This totally goes against everything that I believe and value, right? I want that shock value. So if you're watching things that are negative, it has a lot of negative, content to it. You might want to start, listing what are some of those things, and then little by little saying, I'm no longer going to watch that. Even with social media pages, maybe the people that you're following, you have to take a look at and say, you know what, the content that they post up all the time is not positive. This is not reinforcing the movement that I want to go in, the direction and the trajectory that I want to go. My mindset is already negative. I'm trying to shift that. So you got to even look at the social media pages, the people that you're following. If it's supporting the negativity, you got to change that, and you got to let people go. You got to let pages go. While it's juicy sometimes to listen to gossip, I look at Wendy Williams. My best friend, she loved watching the Wendy Williams show. And I used to tell her I hate that show. I'm like, that lady thrives off of living on people's misery. She makes money on broadcasting people's misery, talking about it, gossiping about it. I was like, I don't like that show. I don't watch her. I'm not entertained by it, right? And you look at her life now. You look at her life now, because of the years and years of thriving and the enjoyment of watching other people's misery. Look at the misery she's in now, and there's not a lot of support for her. There's not a lot of empathy for her. So when you look at that type of lifestyle, even the social media pages that you watch, you got to be careful, because when you look at the end result of some of those people that thrive off of that type of stuff, you see look at Diddy. He thrived off of, taking advantage of people. And now it's coming, his whole legacy, something that could have been such a positive thing for, the culture. It has now become something that's shameful. His legacy is it's tarnished forever. He will, for all his accomplishments, because of the negativity that he chose to ingest. It chose to continue to fill himself with, to the point where now he spread it to others. Look at where his legacy is for himself, for his children. It's really sad to see. So the social media pages that you watch, is it positive content? The TV shows that you watch, is it positive? The music that you're listening to, is it positive, right? If it's not, make a decision to change what you're feeding yourself and who you're surrounding yourself with, in order to make this transition much easier for you. So that was the 5 that I wanted to share. But I also, just really quick, I want to give a bonus. And that is, and this is something that I do, prayer. Prayer is extremely important. If you're struggling with a negative mindset and you want to shift, first make the decision. Set your intentions to change that, and then pray for that. Pray for what, in my faith, we're taught that whatever you remove, God will replace it with better, right? So ask for that. Pray for that. I'm making the decision to change, because this is not positive, and God doesn't want us to live miserably. That is not his intention for us, right? So make the decision to change. Set your intentions for what it is that you're going to do this, and then pray for the relief, the benefit of letting go of things that is not fulfilling your life, not making you the best version of yourself, and not being a benefit to those that are around you. Because if you're a negative person, I guarantee, or you have negative thinking, I guarantee you're going to bring that negative energy to other people, and it's going to just foster this negative thoughts that you have about yourself, that people may not like you, want to be around you. And it may not be you in particular, but the narrative and the way you talk and the way you think, people don't want to be around that. Positive people don't want to be around that. So if you want to have a powerful mindset, you have to start thinking powerful things, positive things, beneficial things, enlightened things. And you will see that the mind, everything that your body does, how you speak, how you interact, who you interact, it all starts here. So start working on this, praying about it, asking for the change, asking for the benefit, asking to, connect you with positive people, those that are going to be of benefit to your life. Ask for those things and then work on it. Work on those things each and every day. And remember to always be grateful for all of the beautiful things, because in my faith, and I know in the Christian faith as well, when you appreciate the good that God has given you, he gives you more. So that is what I wanted to share with you this Wake Up Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Ponder on these thoughts. Reflect on these thoughts. Take one of these things that we shared today and say, I'm going to start focusing on this, but make the decision to change. Make the decision to throw away those negative thoughts and replace them with better. So I'll see you all, God willing, in like a couple of weeks, because it's every other week that we do Wake Up Wednesdays here. If you have any suggestions for topics that you would love to hear, drop them in the comment. I would love to be able to talk about it, share it with you, have a discussion with you. You are very welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Share this, like this live. Share it with someone who you feel can benefit from the topics that we've discussed today. And, let people know about our Wake Up Wednesdays. You never know what benefit you're going to make, or have, or impact that you're going to have on someone else's life just for sharing. And sharing is caring. So enjoy the rest of your day. Be impactful. Get that gratitude book and start, being grateful for all the beautiful blessings that you have each and every day. And this is one of my blessings, being able to come and share and talk and engage with each and every one of you. So enjoy the rest of your week. God willing, see you in a couple of weeks.